And I think so many women go back to a terrible situation because they get out of it and they feel like it's worse than when they were in it. There's so many other things outside of the relationship that make women stay. I just was like, I refuse. I refuse to go back to the way that was. I've got to figure out a way to take care of my kids.
Welcome to the Foxy Mama podcast, where creativity meets parenthood. I'm your host, Lindsay Brace, and each week we'll explore the world of creative entrepreneurship and business through the lens of motherhood. Join us as we chat with inspiring mamas and parents sharing their stories, insights, and the art of balancing it all. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, or just navigating parenthood, this is your space to find inspiration, helpful tips, and support. Now let's get Foxy Mama. Hey, thanks for joining the Foxy Mama podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Brace, and I'm here with Brittany Bettini, Wonder Woman extraordinaire, multi-business owner, and mom of 3 and domestic violence survivor, talking her journey, her experiences, and just her life. Thank you so much for joining me, Brittany. It's just an honor. I've heard so many things. You've worked with my husband on a few different things, and he's just like, you got to meet Brittany. You have to have her on your podcast. She does all the things. So yeah, let's talk about what it is that you do. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey? You're a mom of 3, as I said, a domestic violence survivor and thriver of life.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lindsay, so much for having me on the podcast. I'm Brittany Bettini, and yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love starting businesses. It might be some type of sickness that I have. I'm a workaholic, but at the same time, I am a mom. So trying to balance those 3 things of being a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur has been quite the experience. But I think I'm doing an okay job on most days. I have really shifted my business mindset recently to focus a lot on building other people's businesses, helping them scale their businesses. And I do that by helping them either with coaching or by helping them staff their businesses with virtual assistants. But yeah, I also own a big event space in Hendersonville, North Carolina. That's all new as well. So I'm trying to figure out how to have a brick and mortar and this huge online brand at the same time. My life is crazy pretty much, but I'm trying to figure out how to juggle all the things like we all do as moms.
Yeah. And I love I also call myself a serial entrepreneur. And have juggled everything. It's in my blood as it is yours. Reading a little bit of your background, I was just like, wow, I totally understand all the things that she's doing and her mindset. I thought the same thing. I'm going to go to school. I'll get a job in marketing. My dad, was always like, you're going to go into film. You're going to do that. And I was just like, yeah, but it's not going to pay. And I'm going to get a real job like everybody's telling me to do. And here I am working in film and all the things. And, but from the start, 13 years old, I started a babysitting club. Yeah. Right. Then I had a greeting card thing. Then I sold my own jewelry. Then I did this, and then I always doing all the things. And it's so important for us to grow and change and learn, and be adaptable, because that's what life is really about at its core. And I love that you're showing your children that you can do all of these things. And the world is your oyster, and you could own an event space. You could own this kind of business. You could own and then sell this business. And then what you learned from your family. I was reading about how you were like, no, I'm gonna not be an entrepreneur because my family's all entrepreneurs. And I do want to ask you more about this, is the construction business that your family still owns, right?
Well, they don't, I think my grandmother is not in business anymore. She's like almost 100 years old. And so I think that she finally threw in the towel on running the electrical contracting business, but they were huge. They built like Walmarts and hotels, like all commercial building. And it was crazy growing up watching that, because such a large scale thing. Like every time I went into a Walmart, I was like, oh, my grandpa probably did this, and it's like, that's cool. It opens your mind of the possibilities. Like most people walk in a Walmart and they're like, okay, I need bread, I need this. And I look around and I'm like, I know like how much it costs to build one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved that. Well, you saying that, your grandmother probably finally is like, okay, I'm done after, nearly 100, but such a wonderful woman to be like, and a powerful woman and an example too, that she was like, oh, the loss of her husband, but yet she continued his business and his legacy and was running the business herself. How do you feel that inspired you in your own career, seeing her kind of in this non-traditional role? Because you think of construction, right? You think of it as like this manly thing, and here she is taking over the company. How do you think that kind of inspired you?
Honestly, I think that my grandmother was running the company the whole time. And my papa was just like the face of it. And that's an ongoing theme in the women in my family. So her mother before her had like in a more traditional, but also entrepreneur. She like rented out rooms in her farmhouse and like took care of people who couldn't take care of themselves. And like, the women in our family, my mother, she's an entrepreneur. She owned a bridal business and a bridal store, and, then went on to help my dad with his janitorial business. So like the women in my family are just strong women. And I think even as a child, I was like brainwashed that the women are the ones who are in power here. And we are the ones that pull the strings and make things happen and at the same time, we cook dinner and we take care of everyone. It was a big burden to carry on. I think that's one of the reasons why I was like, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have a normal job. But at the end of the day, I think there's just something in my DNA that was like, no, that's not it. That's not what you're supposed to be doing here. So for me, that example was huge to watch women go against what all of society has told us we're supposed to be doing. And it just opened my mind to be able to say, I can really do whatever I choose to do every single day.
Yeah. I think of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is just such a silly movie.
I love that movie.
And
I quote the Windex thing all the time. I'm like, put some Windex on it and let's go.
Yeah. And it's funny because my grandfather did the same thing. And we're not Greek, we're Italian. My grandfather's Sicilian. Don't even say or he's now passed, but if you were like, oh, you're Italian, he'd be like, no, I'm Sicilian. Like there's a difference. And he'd get so upset, but he would do the Windex thing. And it was just like, I understand this movie. But the quote that's in the movie, she's like, oh, he may be the head of the family, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head any direction she wants. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. And I honor, my grandmother raised 8 children. And my grandfather worked 2 to 3 jobs, also a corporate job and entrepreneurial job of owning a garage, a mechanic. He was a mechanic.
Yeah.
And then doing odd and end jobs. And my grandmother was, she worked for the church here, but she was like doing the household. She was a stay-at-home mom. And the hardest job, really, motherhood, and I honor her daily. And I mean, my son is Jack Fox. Foxy boy, but Jackie, my mom's name was Jacqueline. So
Okay.
I think women are just stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And it's empowering to see that journey and drive and strength in others. Now, can you share a little bit about your personal journey and more about just sharing your own personal journey? You had mentioned that you were did try to do the corporate style thing, that, punch out card aspect of things, and you survived and thriving over domestic violence and balancing that motherhood with your 3 children and all the things. I'd love to share that journey with our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I tried to do everything the right way. As soon as I, got out of high school, I went off to college. I married my high school sweetheart, and it didn't turn out the way that I had pictured it after watching all of those movies that tell us this is what it's going to look like. It looked more like a Lifetime movie than it did a Hallmark movie. And that was the scariest thing. Was I was left with financially being ruined because I had been out of the workforce for a long time, being a stay-at-home mom, and I hadn't used my college education for anything. And I was trying to do little odd things like sell Mary Kay, and I wanted to be independent. There was this fire inside of me that had been completely dampened out. And at one point, my life was at jeopardy, right? And I was like, I have to make a move. I cannot sit here in this, or my children are going to watch me die here. And who's going to take care of them? They're going to be left with this person to take care of them. I can't let this happen to me or to them. I am meant for something greater than this. I don't know what it is, but I'm meant for something greater than this. And so I left and I fled in a very dramatic way in the middle of the night, and then went to go stay with my parents out of state for a little while. And when I came back, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back. Everything's going to be okay. I'm going to figure it all out. And it just deteriorated from there. And I think so many women go back to a terrible situation because they get out of it and they feel like it's worse than when they were in it. At least when I was with him, I had money in the bank. At least when I was with him, my children had a roof over their head and we had food to eat. Or there's so many other things outside of the relationship that make women stay. And so I just was like, I refuse to go back to the way that was. I've got to figure out a way to take care of my kids. So I took, I put my pride down. I'm a very prideful woman. I come from a rather wealthy family. And I isolated myself and just went to work. I was working at a call center, and I was working as a janitor at night, and I was doing anything and everything I could, as well as I started to be a recipient of the services that are available. That was the huge pride thing. I had to get on food stamps and go to food pantries and have local resources, pay my light bill to keep my lights on. And it was terrible. And I remember sitting in the floor with bills piled up, crying in the dark because my lights were cut off. And I remember he's now 10 and he's an angel. But I remember my son's birthday came and he was sick and I didn't have money for a birthday cake. And I didn't have money for gifts. And I called my mom and I'm like, I can't buy him a birthday cake. I can't believe I'm in this situation. And she like called Walmart and had a cake made and paid for it over the phone and had me go pick it up. But that's all he had that year. And I was like devastated. And I was like, I promise you that it will not be like this soon. And he was just a little kid. He had no idea like really what that meant or whatever. But I just remember like crying and telling him it was going to be okay. And him saying, it's okay, mommy. Because he's like 3, or it was his 4th birthday. Sorry.
Okay.
And so it was like, that was what drove me to just be obsessed with getting back on my financial feet. And then once I kind of got back on good financial footing, that's, that drove me to want more and to do more and to see what I was capable of. Every goal I hit at my job at that call center, I felt like a whole new woman. I was like, oh, I'm the best at this. I'm hitting all these goals. I'm getting these bonuses. I'm top of my group and, whatever. And then all of a sudden they moved the bar higher at that job because I was doing so well. They were like, oh, now the new goal is this. And I was mad. So like a mixture of people telling me I couldn't or I wouldn't or I shouldn't. And then the whole system telling me you did great, but now we need more in order for you to continue to get the praise that you're getting now. I was like, I'm going to just figure out a way to build something of my own where I can shine and I'm in control. And I'm a great employee. And I think a lot of people who try to become entrepreneurs because they're terrible employees. Well, you're your first employee. So in order to be a good business owner, you really have to be a great employee for someone else so that you know what that looks like. And so I started Bettini Financial, which was my first company, at the same time of kind of taking over in the reins of running my family's janitorial business. And so that was huge because not only was I helping myself, but now I was helping other people. And the first day that I launched the business, I took 10 clients who were domestic violence survivors as free clients. I didn't make them pay. It was a mix of, I need to promote my new business. And I also want to have people who can vouch that my services work. At the same time, I'm going to do it for people that I know this is going to mean the world to. And it just kind of took off from there. And now my life is so different than it was when I was going through it. But I spend at least an hour every week reminiscing on what my life looked like back then. I made a Facebook post today that said, you can't complain about having a full plate when the goal was always to never starve. Because some days being an entrepreneur is overwhelming and you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And so I try to keep in mind what I've been through to get where I am today. And that little time period of that relationship really shaped who I am as a woman and a boss and an entrepreneur and a mother today. I still do it for the kids, but now it's different. Now it's not so that they can eat. It's so that they can have like this example that is supportive and there for them at the same time if they know they can do anything and everything they want to do as long as they work hard.
Yeah. And you're setting that example. You were setting that example from day one, from, leaving in the middle of the night to working those jobs to calling. I was tearing up as you were talking about it because I can't even imagine the strength that took to call your mom and be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
there's been several of those calls.
Yeah. And it's so, there are no words to really say other than you just, wow. It's just, you are a beautiful human being.
Oh,
and to show that to your children to the people that you help in business is just so powerful. And may that trickle down and keep rolling and keep, a lot of people use the term snowball effect in a negative way, like, oh, my day just snowballed, blah, blah, blah. But I like to use it in a positive way. Like, may that pick up this and just grow and keep growing. And I love that you took one thing and you're like, all right, well, I had trouble, getting on my financial footing after all this, I couldn't afford to have what you said, like, don't, that full plate when the goal was not to have an empty one, right? I butchering your own words, but I just thought that was such a beautiful way of looking at things. And you were like, I'm going to start this business to help people get their own financial footing back. And I'm going to offer it free to a few people. This helps me, but this also helps them. And here's this positive snowball effect going down and growth. And now, since that business, you've started several others and growing from that. And not only that, you've become a fierce advocate for battered women and doing fundraisers and helping children and all that. I want to talk about that. Can you share a little bit about those experiences and what you've done and helped raise? Yeah.
So whenever you go to the police or there's a domestic violence situation, oftentimes they will share your information with a local shelter or service provider that helps women in this situation. And so the first time that this happened to me, and I went back because I went to court and I was by myself and I didn't have anyone to support me there. My family lived out of town and it was just a scary situation. And he was like, we'll go to marriage counseling. And I was like, okay. And so I went back. And that was when I lived in a completely different district. When I was in Henderson County and this happened, immediately someone from Safe Flight, which is the local domestic violence shelter here in Henderson County, they reached out to me and they offered me help. They helped me find services that could put food in our pantry. They sent someone with me to court. Like, they have a court advocate that goes and, if nothing else, just sits there with you while you're going through this terrible situation. And they encourage you to not give up. They encourage you to keep coming to court dates, because a lot of people who are abusers get away with what they're doing because it's too scary to go through the big judicial process of it. And so they helped me push through and stay away and offered me counseling and so many things that when I got on the other side, I got reconnected with them on a different level as a donor and as an advocate. And so I was invited to speak at some of their events and tell them my testimony. And it was the first time I had ever shared any of this out loud. And at the event where I spoke, there were 6 altogether. I shared a 911 tape from a situation where I was beaten and then left on the side of the road. And then he drove off with our 1-year-old baby in the car. And then I spoke about, hey, I'm so successful now, but that's not always what it looked like. And the successful people around you may have been this person, and then played the tape. And we raised a lot of money for that organization. We had a lot of new people come in, and I've been able to give back to the people that saved my life. That is like the ultimate full circle. And even now, like, my event space on Main Street in Hendersonville is in the building that the domestic violence shelter used to be in. When I toured this building and I was getting a tour, the real estate agent was like, this used to be Mainstay, which is now Safe Flight. And I said, what? And he was like, yeah, this used to be the shelter. And I just started like bawling, crying. I was like, where do I sign? This is like, I've been led here for a reason. This is my building now. But we still do things. I still do things to help that organization, as well as I started my own nonprofit that's going to help women who may, you know, have been through the same type of situation, learn how to become entrepreneurs and also give back to the community. So like, I love that I get to share my story. It's helped me in business because people like authentic people. And our world is like set up right now where if it's not shiny and pretty and looks good on Instagram, then it won't sell. But I'm like the complete opposite of that. I'll like post pictures from a photo shoot that I did where I look amazing and they're all pretty and edited and great. And then I'll also 2 days later post like the blurbs of the pictures of like what is that called? Like the ones where I'm like, oh, yeah, the blooper pictures. And I'm like, this is also me. And I'm also a hot mess. And my kids also get in trouble at school. And like, I also, you know, don't always get along with my husband. And like, we're real people behind these online brands and behind these businesses. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to show people that your testimony and what you've been through is the reason why you are who you are. And it's okay to share that with people, because I've had people reach out to me privately that I would have never thought would have gone through what I've gone through or are currently going through. I've had women that are like, I left because of you. Do you know, like, I have sat and like read through messages before and just bawled my eyes out. Like, I'm really invoking change in a positive way in the world. And what more can you ask of a life? Like, I'm actually building a legacy for like helping people. And ultimately, like, money is great. I like money. I like nice things. I love, you know, a good Louis Vuitton bag. But at the end of the day, I really love helping people and being able to use my crappy life story of, you know, the parts of it that were bad to show people that there's hope.
Yeah. I think that's so important to show that there is hope. I you know, gravitate towards that story of Pandora's box, right? You know, everything is opened up and everything flies out, but just right before it's closed, and what remains is that hope. And it's such a, you know, vivid story to use, and you're setting that example, and you're going out into the community that you live in, and you're sharing your story, and you're helping those individuals take that first step. And that first step, even though it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take, it's, you know, all you have to do is make that move or flip that light switch, right? A lot of people, you know, refer to like, oh, just switch it on and off, and or take that first step. But that is hard. That first step in anything, right, is hard. But to have that leap of faith and saying, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to work hard, or I'm going to make that call. I'm going to do all these things because one day it's not going to be this.
Yep.
One day it's going to look like this. And the important thing is to not compare your day one to someone else's day 100, to their day 1000, to their day 2000, whatever. Like, your journey is going to be your journey. It's going to be completely different. But know that it is possible. It is possible to do all the things. It is impossible to be a mom and do all those things, or be a mom and separate yourself. Be a mom and take that leap.
That's the hardest part. Is a lot of people look at moms and they're like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? What about your kids? Where are your kids? And I'm like, you guys have forgotten the fact that I am a completely different person than these other human beings. I am, while I'm a mom, I'm also allowed to have dreams and aspirations and a life outside of that one title. And, you know, I'm really blessed because my amazing husband spends a lot of time with our kids. I retired him from corporate America, and honestly, he's better at the like day-to-day job of parenting than I am because he's super calm and collected. And he's should have been like an elementary school teacher because he's like such a good teacher and nurturer, and he never loses his patience like I do. And that allows me to be the greatest mom during the time I have with them. I was so lucky to get remarried to someone so polar opposite of what I had before. He deserves a lot of the credit for the fact that I'm able to do what I get to do now. Because my life as a single mom doing entrepreneurship was vastly different. And it was scary because I'm like, a lot of moms are like, who do I leave my kids with while I'm trying to build a business? Or, that was scary and it's more expensive. But definitely it's doable. I spent we didn't get married and he got retired for the first 4 years or three or 4 years. So it's definitely doable, but keeping that in mind, that comparing your day one to my day, I don't know, 6 or 7 years in now.
Yeah.
I've changed so much. So much has changed inside of me. I go to therapy now. Like I'm working on me at the same time as working on these businesses. And so, that's why I started a women's empowerment group called Regroup, because I noticed that even you said it, like when we, like Superwoman or Wonder Woman, or like I would meet people in the community, or I would be like traveling and see someone in the airport and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Brittany Bettini. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. Like I'm just a regular person and I want to always stay that way. And so I had to like get a 30 women together in my event space. And like we introduced ourselves and I was all dressed up. And then when it was my turn to speak, I kicked my shoes off and I rolled my sleeves up. And I was like, I want you guys to understand that this is armor that I wear to protect myself and to be a certain brand. But underneath all of this, I've been broken and I've been broke and I've been through hell and back. And I'm just a regular woman and mom and wife, just like all of you. And I go through all the same things that you guys go through. It's wrapped up in a pretty package because that's my job. And so I think that we put way too much pressure on moms, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom. There's so much pressure, and Instagram and Facebook and social media makes it 100 times worse, because now they've got all these like videos of people like restocking their pantries. And have you seen them? They're like decorating videos and like people like their pantries and their
yeah. Okay. Now I know what you're, yeah.
Videos. And like, if I were like a stay-at-home mom, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm expected to do now. And I hate that for us as women, because there's like none of that for men. There's none of that like over, like y'all are cool as long as you just go to work and come home and like, help out here and there, and you get a little cookie and a trophy. And us, we're supposed to like be bosses and restock our pantries like we're Martha Stewart and cook these crazy meals. And it's just a lot. So much that I feel like we're not able to celebrate who we actually are and like what we're actually accomplishing, because we're so focused on the things that we're dropping the ball on. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Love the products you're hearing us chat about on the Foxy Mama podcast? Find all the featured items on my personal Amazon shops page at amazon.com/shop/TheLindsayBoo. Happy shopping.
And I think it's important as mothers and women that we support one another and stop tearing each other down. I'm, as you're saying, like talking about restocking your pantries or whatever, it's been 2 weeks of my husband and I both trying to work out of this small little office that we have. But on the other side of this laptop, which I'm using, right, is crap. It's literally like shit that I have to go through, pardon my friends, but boxes that have to be put on the shelves, like, and it's taking a little while longer. We have a 7-month-old. We're trying to juggle all the things and work and make money, pay the bills, do all the things, restock our pantries with we have to go shopping. You know, we're running out of stuff. And like, I'm like, okay, let's just take it day by day and step by step and not be so harsh on ourselves, because like we're scrolling, we're seeing all the things and being like, oh, well, why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And have that mindset and let it all go, because it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. Right. Yep. Using, I did a lot of work, and continue to support NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and their slogan, right, if you will, is it's okay not to be okay. Mm-hmm. And it like we're human beings having a human experience, right? We're human beings being and doing. We're not, you know, just here to look pretty and check all the boxes.
30 seconds before this podcast call, I was sitting here with my hair up in a bun, creating a landing page with no makeup on, freaking out because like my schedule got delayed this morning and everything's been behind ever since. And 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a podcast recording. I got a like makeup bag, threw some mascara on, and like 30, my sales manager for my event space was standing in front of me. She was like reading me the questions you were going to ask while I'm putting mascara on. It does, like, I think that people are so focused on what they're seeing, they don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Most of us who look like we have our lives together, we have a whole team of people trying to make it look like that. And we are a hot mess. And so that's why I think authenticity is everything.
Yeah. And it's okay. It is okay. Because that is life. Life is messy and it's beautiful at the same time. Right before this call, I was doing the same thing, trying to get my hair up in a way. Dave is with the baby and he's coming in. He's like, I think you have enough battery. I'm like, I don't think I have enough battery. Should I change it? And what happens like in this call? Beautiful setup. And now I'm left to the eyesight and it's grainy. And now I'm like, oh, wait, it was my audio. I hope I could clear that up, that it's fuzzy. I'm like, I hope that this comes across, but it is what it like. And I've had my freak out days. And I love how you said like, your husband is like this, taking on more of a, like a non-traditional role. Like he's more of like, you know, with the children or staying at home or doing all the things. And we kind of have that similar thing. Like Dave cooks a lot of the dinners now. That's how that looks, right? He's an excellent cook. My father taught him well. Yeah. He worked for years. My father is an entrepreneur as well. I watched him go from, he had a restaurant growing up. It was pulled out from underneath him. He was only renting the space. He was given 2 weeks to get out. And then he had to get a job clocking in and out. And then he worked, you know, for the state. He worked at a prison and worked in the food service of the prison. And also working at a retirement priest care facility, cooking there, waiting to get his next restaurant. And it wasn't until I was a senior in high school did that happen. Wow. And that was a concession stand at a golf course. And then from that concession stand went to finally purchasing his own space and having that business. And years later, Dave started working for my dad and working in the kitchen and cooking and learning all these things. And that helps me because I used to love cooking and I still do, but I don't have time for that because I'm breastfeeding the child, which takes like an hour, right? Yeah. And I can't do that and cook, although I have, you know, and it looks a little different. And people are like, well, you don't cook or you don't make the mood. If it was up to me, I think I would just be like, all right, let's just have what we have, order takeout. Let's just do it. Yeah.
That's what I would do. That's what I do all the time. And you know, you would not believe the comments and like the flack that we get about our marriage and about the non-traditional roles that we play. And it is so negative towards him more than it is towards me. And I hate it. And I'm like his biggest like cheerleader and like always defending him because I think his job is way more important than mine. He's helping, like he's raising our children. He's like making them good people for the world. And I am just like, you know, doing the entrepreneur thing, which I do good, but like it's way more important to me what happens to my children than it is what happens to these businesses. And he's so much better suited for that. And we get so like, especially other men are like very cruel to our situation because they, you know, they think that that's not a man's job or that he's lazy or he doesn't want to work. When in fact, his job is way harder than what I do. And they would never be able to do that role because they would never take a, you know, what kind of man it takes to take a kind of a back seat to like me being the successful career person in the family. Like you have to have a really good self-esteem as a man. Like you have to be really confident in yourself to even allow or like to even be with someone like me. So like I am blessed. And I'm very appreciative that that's the role that he's so good at because it makes my life a whole lot easier.
Yeah. And I'm shocked at other men. I get other moms, you know, doing that unsolicited advice. Oh yeah. All the time. And I'm like,
I think I mentioned scared to tell me what to do.
I'm a big pushover kind of person, and I think I'm approachable in that sense that I'm getting messages and it's also like about what my husband's doing. I mean, I had him wearing the baby carrier, right? And we were walking downtown when my mom was visiting, and it was a video of him wearing our son, and he was just like dancing to live music that was downtown. And he posted it on his stories because it was like so super cute and adorable. And, our son was like dancing and happy and whatever. And I get a message in my DMs that the baby carrier is too low and that I need to make sure that my husband puts it on properly. And just like, and it started off with like, I know you probably, don't want any unsolicited advice. And they even said that. And like,
that was where you stop.
Yeah. I'm like, check yourself, at the door, like, and I know it's coming from a place of love and that's the way they see things, but I am carrying such that is my struggle and something I am continuing to work on. And I could do a whole podcast about it as mom guilt right now. As I mentioned, he's with the baby and I can't wait to hold him and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And apologize. But for what? For taking time to do something, and where did that come from? Where did that develop? Is it, what we see on the screen? Is it, you mentioned, your life being more like a Lifetime movie versus a Hallmark movie. I watch movies now, and I think, when I was a kid, you don't really understand. And you're just like, oh yeah, people fight crime in high heels, wielding a gun and doing all that stuff. And watching Law and Order or whatever, oh yeah, that's how people dress. But in real life, no.
Yeah.
That's not, what happens. But yeah, and the long of it, the short of it rather, I need to do me, you do you, and worry about you. But let's dive in and talk more about you, because I could talk all day about that mom guilt that I've been having. Is there any specific lessons that you've learned from being a mom of 3 that you apply in your business and your leadership roles?
So yes. Team building, conflict resolution. I think
all the things.
all the things. I think that that's another reason why moms and women are so good in business, is because we are always fixing problems, dealing with someone's attitude. Like, we're great with customer service because we're literally someone's snack. And I want to use a bad word there, but like, I am someone's like snack lady. You know what I mean? Like, so making sure that everyone is happy and taken care of and has what they need. It definitely applies in business. I use what I've learned as a mom in just about every other thing that I do, because that is important. I don't think enough women take into consideration that their job of raising another human being to be a good person and sending them out into the world is important. And that there are real skills and abilities that it takes to do that job. And there's real work on ourselves that we have to do to be good at that job. And then the work that we do is transferable. So many women are like, I haven't worked in so long. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I can't find a job. And I'm like, I would love to hire you. Like, come on, like, come work for me, because I already know you're going to be really good at anything I need done, because you've been doing way more than one human being should be doing on a daily basis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This job's going to be simple cake for you.
Yeah. I just think of all the things that I do now, and I'm only 7 months into this mother journey. Just like getting ready at the end of the night, you know, after they're both, Dave's asleep, baby's asleep, I'm going in and I'm getting the coffee all ready. Right. And getting like things so that the next day is easier. Right. And I do like little things to also help Dave. Right. In a sense, like I'll get his contact case ready and his glasses out. So, and it's just like something that I do. But it applies in like real day life situations, as I'm like noticing the small things. And, you know, and you mentioned that, I'll hire you. Yeah. And so I want to touch on that. Is you had mentioned like, oh, this woman has been, you know, she's been a stay-at-home mom for a while and she can't find a job. And you're like, oh, I'll hire you. Now you have, you know, multiple businesses, right? Yeah. And you have the I Need a VA, and you recently sold, right, your
credit repair company.
And you have the event space. And that in itself is a lot. Not only like, oh yeah, you think, oh, it's just a space, but it's a lot of different things, because you're, you know, your marketing coordinator, your time management person. Yeah. So you're doing all the things. And so I want to touch on the opportunities you're not only giving to yourself, right? You've given yourself and provided yourself with opportunities, and your children witnessing these opportunities, but you're also providing them for women and others, just in general. Let's talk about more about your other businesses and what you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the event space, I just actually hired my second employee here, someone to help with event logistics, setup, breakdown. It's a lot. When you have a wedding and there's like 9,000 chairs to put out and tables and everything. And then I have, I hired someone who used to work at the domestic violence shelter. She was in fundraising, and she works here now as our events and sales coordinator. She's amazing. The event space is the biggest, craziest thing I've ever done. It's like so hands-on, contractors. Like, we did a full build out in a 10,000 square foot building. It was a nightmare-ish situation from start to now. It's finally starting to calm down, which is great. But my real passion really shines through at I Need a VA, because I get to not only help people who are in business here who can't afford maybe to hire in the US, or they need help, but they need someone who's like fully trained and they don't even know where to find those people. That's what we do on the customer side. But I actually get to help people in a developing country feed their families and have jobs. And we have hundreds of VAs in the Philippines who are some of the most amazing people on earth. who I get to help them with their families, or help them. Like I have VAs who have paid for funerals or bought houses or bought cars, and like those, I'm making a difference there as well, on both sides, the customer and the employees. And I think that that's really huge, that it's not just making me money. It's I've made lots of, revenue in my businesses, but I've also paid out millions of dollars in payroll.
Yeah.
And in an economy where people are struggling, that says a lot. And I'm super thankful that I get the opportunity to hire other people and help them take care of their families as well as take care of my own.
Yeah. I am just so, wow. I'm just like, I could sit here and talk more, and just go down rabbit holes. And
I'll have to have you on my podcast, and then we can just pick up right where we left off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just, I'm so glad we finally got to connect and learn more. And I'm learning so much from you. It's so great. All the things that you're doing. And I feel good that we talked about like real life being messy, right? Yeah. And that this podcast, like we were both right before, scrambling, and, you're putting mascara on and looking at the questions and doing all the things. And here, like my camera went out, and reverted back to the other camera. The sound, I'm hoping that I can clean up the sound and do all the things. And that is life, right? Yep. And here we are, we're showing up, we're doing all the things, and we're putting yep. Yeah. What is it like? Fear the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
And just keep going. And that is who you are and what you are all about. And I absolutely adore it that you are this beacon of light for people who are in a situation that they could look at and be like, I can do it too.
Well, just think about it like this. A few years down the road, you're going to be sitting in some big production studio with some, big celebrity mom coming in to talk to you on this podcast. And you're going to look back at these like first videos of when the camera went out and we were a hot mess. And you're going to love that. And you're going to laugh and get to experience and document the journey.
Yeah.
That's why I think I love podcasts and I love doing these things, because if I go back and rewatch old podcasts that I've appeared on, it's like a totally different person talking. And I'm like, I get to actually have a document of my life and journey.
Yeah.
Of growth. And so your podcast will do the same thing. And it's going to be so amazing. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be a part of it.
Yeah, it is. So I've love watching my old YouTube videos. It's funny. I have a lot of them privatized, but I was just like, wow, look how little. Like I was employed by YouTube in 2007, 2008 when they first launched, and just like that is the trajectory. Like I thought I was going to be a big YouTube celebrity, right? Yeah. That was like my first start of this whole thing, right? And I'm like, wow, like roads have changed. But it is so important. Like, in a studio, my makeshift, there is a closet door behind this.
I love it.
It's not a window. And I just installed that. And Dave put up the rod and had to do it twice because it was like over the door and we couldn't open the closet door. And this was all last night. And we're like, we have these recordings and that's life, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. But thank you for being here.
Yes, of course.
How can our audience connect with you and find you online and all your valuable resources that you offer?
Absolutely. So I am at Brittany Bettini, Bettini on everything. So Facebook, Instagram, that handle will find me, as well as you can go to BrittanyBettini.com, and all my businesses and resources, ebooks and courses and everything are linked there as well. So, or could just send me a DM. I love talking to people. Like I said, I don't don't want people to feel like they can't just reach out to me and get to talk to a real person.
Well, thank you so much for your time and inspiration. Thank you so much. And thanks for being a Foxy Mama.
Absolutely. I love the name and it's perfect.
The Foxy Mama podcast is here to entertain and share general insights. Our content is not a substitute for personalized advice from professionals like financial advisors, physicians, or therapists. So enjoy the Foxy vibes, but consult the superheroes for personalized advice.